All right, we're back here with the Sports Rabbi Josh Halleckman. Welcome aboard to the Sports Rabbi Show. And of course, the Sports Rabbi Show, Holy Land Hoops, where we bring you the best of Israeli basketball. And to do that today, I have a wonderful guest coming to us from Sport 5, the sports channel in Israel. It is the EuroLeague international basketball expert, also does Israeli League games. It is none other than Oded Halperin, one of the great follows on Twitter. We'll have him tagged, of course, in the article, so you can make sure you follow him as well. He knows everything that goes on in Israeli basketball, European basketball, EuroLeague. He is the man of the hour. Oded Halperin, how are you doing today?
I'm very good, Josh. Thank you very much. A nice introduction, I must say. The best I got in a long time. I don't usually do podcasts in English, but I will try to keep up, as
Well,
we say.
your English is perfect. You have nothing to worry about, I can guarantee you. Now, I think what we want to do today is we know that the EuroLeague playoffs are starting. Of course, the top 8 of the 18 teams are in the playoffs, quarterfinal series, and it goes into a final 4. Maccabi Tel Aviv not in those final 8. Of course, we'll get to that in a minute. But today I wore a Barcelona hat, a Barcelona EuroLeague jersey that I got at their store last year. Before watching them beat up Maccabi Tel Aviv by about 30 points, we might add. And of course, I'm already picking Barcelona as this year's champion. Do you think, if you look at the EuroLeague on a whole right now, Barcelona, in my opinion, has been the best team? It's been with Nikola Mirotic, Nick Kalathis. You have Kyle Courage coming off the bench. They have Sharas Yaskevicius as the head coach, who is well known to many fans out there as being one of Maccabi Tel Aviv's all-time great guards. You add Pau Gasol, who is obviously one of the great all-time basketball players in the history of the game, especially in Europe. Can anybody stop Barcelona? We'll just start off with that right now. Are they the team to beat going into this playoffs, Oded?
Um, After the first round of this season, I would say no. But as we saw Anadolu Efes in the last few weeks, I think that Anadolu is the team to beat right now, and not Barcelona. Even though Barcelona finished the first place and had the best record, and has been the most stable team in this EuroLeague season, but Anadolu, in my opinion, is a better team and a fun team to watch because Barca is very strong, methodic, in the shape of Sharas and what he says is done. And Anadolu under Ergin Ataman is a very, very fluid team. You enjoy seeing their games and they play lovely basketball. I think maybe the best basketball in the world. Even if you talk about the NBA, there isn't a team playing such good basketball in such a high level and makes you really, really want to see them again and again and again. And the thing that we leave out about Anadolu, it's a good defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only an offensive team that you can see and it's okay, they will score 100, the team will score, the rival will score 95. No, they're very good at defense because they have a big roster, a large roster, and also a lot of options defensively. And when you take maybe the best defensive center in the last 10 years with Kyle Hines, Brian Dunston, and you take him off the bench and you give him only 15 minutes, but in this 15 minutes, you have to give everything you got, and he knows what's his job. So that's one side, and they have the two best guards in Europe together, Mitic and Larkin.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really hope that Barca and Anadolu will get to the final because it will be a clash of styles that will bring out the best in European basketball and this season EuroLeague. But after them, there's a big drop because they're really the best two teams by far, I think. But you know that in this formation, this system, when you get to the final four and you play a one game to get to the final, everything can happen. Anadolu can lose. Barca can get the fourth seed. It's Milano. I think they will prevail over Bayern. And then Barca, Milano, in one game, a very defensive-minded affair. So when they get to the final four, it's really an open book, open story, I think. But if I have to guess and to tell who I want to see over there, it's Barca and Anadolu Efes in the final. The most deserving teams. Anadolu had a really tough time this season after 2 great years. They should have won the EuroLeague last year if the COVID-19 epidemic won't hasn't got in the way. So these are my favorites. I think it's everyone's favorites. But if I have to choose, I will go with the Turkish team.
Okay, Efes, Anadolu Efes, of course, for the fans that are listening out there, features Shane Larkin, which is, arguably the greatest player right now we have in the EuroLeague, the most dynamic player, an amazing shooter, a great driver. He knows where his guys are. Of course, Shane Larkin, the son of Barry Larkin, who was a Hall of Fame shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds. The Sports Rabbi saw him many, many times live back in his days in the old country. So very well aware of him. And it's interesting because you look at Shane Larkin. I interviewed him once when he was with Baskonia. And this is before he had his breakout with Anadolu Efes. And I don't think we really thought he was going to have this great big breakout. I don't even think he saw it at that time. I remember him being very modest and, he was coming off the bench. He was playing decent basketball. But you look at what he's turned into under Ergin Ataman, who is arguably, one of the coaches that has been bashed across Europe for so many years as being the loser coach, right? He goes into a team of Galatasaray and he can't win, or he's, just this guy that's just not this winning coach. But all of a sudden, he's been able to mold this team of Efes over the last few years. And like you said, rightfully so, they should have won the league, the EuroLeague last year if they would have gone. They were by far the best team, even though Maccabi Tel Aviv beat them that last game at Menorah Miftachim Arena. But you look at a team like under Ergin Ataman, with, you said, Brian Dustin, who started his career here in Israel, of course, tough center, Vasily Micic, who has bounced around in the NBA draft circles. Is he going to come to the NBA? Is he not going to come to the NBA? And we'll talk a little bit about that aspect in a little bit. But Ergin Ataman has made it very clear this is a revenge year for him. He has basically drilled it into his team, Oded, that we are upset that we did not have the chance to win last year. And we want to make up for the loss we had 2 years ago in the final. We want to win the championship this year. Do you think that drive itself is enough to push this team over? And like you said, it's going to be a clash of styles, as we said, between Barca and Anadolu. But I believe that they are a team on a mission, and Ataman is a man on a mission to win this championship, Oded.
They certainly have a chip on their shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Ergin Ataman and the entire team knows that if this season they will not win the EuroLeague, it won't stay the same for the next year. And I say, even if they win the EuroLeague this season, I don't think Micic will stay.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll go or to the NBA because he has OKC has the rights for him, and we saw them taking Gabriel Deck in the last few weeks. And I think Micic has the potential to be a good NBA guard off the bench. Because of his style, because of his shooting, because of his ability to pass the ball. He's also a good defender, and he's fearless. They like fearless players in the NBA. Mm-hmm. So it's maybe the last chance. So if you add the chip on the shoulder and the sense of urgency, because it's the last year they will be able to do it together, it also generates a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Anadolu Efes, because they are a good team, but that also, I said it before, in the Final Four, it's a one game, and in some days the ball don't go in.
Right.
It happens. You see it in the NCAA in the Final Four in each game because it's a knockout system. So the chip on their shoulder, they have to make sure it won't interfere with their style of play, that they keep playing the way they play in the regular season, the way they play in the playoff. They have a tough playoff series against Real Madrid, maybe the toughest one in those teams from the first to the third place. You see Barca has Zenit, a good team, but Barca is clear favorite. CSKA will meet Fenerbahce, but Fenerbahce has big problems with COVID-19. So we don't know if the game will be played, when it will be played, what kind of roster Fenerbahce has, because the name of the players haven't been published yet. So if you look at the three top seeds, you take Anadolu Efes, they will play the best team in Spain in the regular season, even though they lost Gabi Deck and they lost Randolph and they lost Campasso. Still, Real Madrid is Real Madrid. And if by chance they will take the first game in Turkey, the whole series is going to change. You have to go back to Spain. You have to win there twice to go and to come back. So Anadolu Efes has a big mission on their first playoff series. I think it's the toughest one from all of the seeds. So we have to take it step by step. They have to win against Real. Then they have to look about the rival in the semifinal.
Mm-hmm.
It will be either CSKA or Fenerbahce. It will be Fenerbahce. It will be a party of the Turkish basketball. But as we look like now, it's tough to see Fener going over the first hurdle with their problems with COVID. So we really need to see Anadolu in the first playoff series to see that they're in shape, to see how they handle Real and all of their attributes, how they handle Tavares. We talked about the defense. They have to stop Tavares. We see Real. Sergio Llull is back in shape. Lapo Vitola started playing better in the last few weeks. It's a Real Madrid. They have experience. They have a great coach on the sidelines. Great series, of course. For all you fans in the United States, if you get the chance to see those games, this is the series you want to see. Anadolu versus Real. Great basketball, great stars, great coaches, everything you like about European basketball in one series.
Yeah, of course, that series starts on Tuesday, so exciting for that. Anadolu Efes and Real Madrid. Let's talk about Real Madrid for a minute, because this year, a lot of listeners and a lot of viewers of this know now who Facu Campazzo is, Facundo Campazzo. They had no clue who he was before the season started, but little by little, he moves over to the NBA, playing for the Denver Nuggets. Will probably now get a little bit more time even because of the injury to Jamal Murray. It looks like he's fit in very nicely, obviously in a role, role player situation as we've seen this season so far. What do you think of a player like Facu Campazzo going to the NBA? And if you had to put your finger, and we've also talked about Gabriel Deck going to the NBA, if you had to put a finger on who the next couple of players are, other than Micic, is there anybody else? And what do you think that the upheaval in Real Madrid this year, we didn't see Real Madrid that we know Real Madrid, the big powerhouse. They've had their problems this year. But again, the matchups are going to be an issue. Of course, Walter Eddie Tavares, who people know from the NBA, is huge and is going to cause all kinds of problems to some of their shooters. What other players do you think will go to the NBA, and can Campazzo be successful? Is Deck even going to be there next year? Because we know his contract's not guaranteed. There was a little bit of a little play around there. Is there anybody else that can make it to the NBA that is featured in the EuroLeague this season, Oded?
So I will start with Facu because he's one of my favorite players. I think he fits well in the Denver system because they have Jokic. They have a center that likes to pass, genius on the court. And you look at Campazzo, and he's a Jokic, but he's, how much, six, I don't know, 180. We talk about in centimeters right. In Europe. So he's a genius of a player. And as I talked about Deck earlier, and I think about all Argentina players, they are fearless. He doesn't care what size he is, who he's playing. We saw it in the World Cup in China. We will see it in the Olympic Games, I hope, in Tokyo 2021. Facu has his problems, of course, his size. He's not a great shooter. He's not a great shooter from beyond the arc. But if he has a special role in this team, and in the next few weeks, I think, as you said, he will have a large role because of the Jamal Murray injury. He's not a starting five-man, but also he came in the middle of the season, in a pandemic season, and with no crowd, and he's still making his way into the rotation. Mm-hmm. You see, he's getting his minutes. They believe in him, and rightfully so. I think next year will be a better player, he will fit, he will know his role, he will make a preseason with the team. They will tell him what they want from him, and he will make his adjustments to the NBA game. I really like Facu. I hope he will succeed. Really, really great player from Europe coming to the States. Not trivial. Had a lot of troubles during his seasons in Real Madrid. He was loaned to another teams in Spanish league, but in the last few years, one of the best guards in Europe, no doubt about it. Regarding other players that gonna make the leap to the NBA, European players, right now coming in a much younger age. We saw the last draft. We saw Avdia and Maledon and Pukushevsky. We don't have, I think, a star this year in that caliber, uh, but you see the mega, in the mega of Mishko Raznatovic. I think both players that already been drafted will come to the NBA. Simonovic, the Montenegrin center, who was already drafted last year. Maybe Bolmaro from Barca that has been drafted first round pick. But he has to. He doesn't play a lot under Sharas in the EuroLeague,
Right.
so we cannot see really his potential. But when we know that the EuroLeague and the NBA is different. But if I take one player that has been in the NBA and maybe can come back after this year, maybe it's Wade Baldwin from Bayern, because
He's had a
Baldwin
very
had
good
a
year. Excellent year.
great season.
Excellent.
He's also a first round pick and played in the NBA. Decided to move to Europe last year with Olympiacos. Wasn't good at all, but I think we have to connect that with the season that Olympiacos had. And this year with Bayern Munich, they gave him the chance. They gave him the key to the team. He's been excellent. Also, he has the problem with outside shooting, but he's the best mid-range shooter, I think, in the game right now in Europe. A great cutter, great, he can penetrate to the basket every time he wants to. And we will see him in the playoffs, and maybe it can give it another push because we know that the NBA is looking for players. They're looking for for a roster of players, and if they see someone that was good in Europe, even though he wasn't great in the NBA, he's good in Europe. Okay, so we can give another chance. It's okay. So maybe Baldwin, but if we look at the big teams, Anadolu Efes, it's a very I don't know experienced, not old, experienced team. I don't think Shane Larkin wants to go back to the NBA to be a backup player.
No.
Maybe Vasilya Micic. So that's we talked about him. Other players, I don't think there is any chance. Real Madrid also very experienced. Barcelona also a lot of older players that have been in the NBA came back to Europe. So in this perspective, not a great EuroLeague season for NBA prospects, but you know, it happens, and it's also a tough season for everyone to show out
Of course.
because of the pandemic, um, and also the next year draft. I think is going to be very very strong because the American players,
Yes, they have a
uh,
huge. The top 10 is
yeah,
very, very stacked.
Kate Cunningham and Jalen Green, very very good draft. Uh, Much powerful than this year draft, and we saw those Europeans, getting the top 10, Killian Hayes and Denny, of course. So I don't know if I can point out someone that has been outstanding this season that he can go to the NBA and make the jump.
So let's talk about Wade Baldwin for a second and his team, Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich's going to be playing Milano in their quarterfinal series. Now, if you had to say the biggest surprise this season, Bayern Munich's got to be up there, along with Zenit probably. But Bayern Munich, a surprise season. It's really amazing how they built the roster. They bring in a guy like Jalen Reynolds, who played for Maccabi Tel Aviv last year and has become an absolute star under Andrea Trincaneri. Andrea Trincaneri, for those that don't know who he is, in my opinion, one of the most colorful coaches, one of the greatest quotes in the game, speaks, I don't know how many languages, is just entertaining when he's at the podium. And he happens to be a phenomenal coach, and he knows how to get the best out of his players. And if you look at Bayern's roster, okay, it's a nice roster, but would you have ever thought they would have had the season they had this season, Oded?
No, I
In a
put
million
them
years.
in the lower standings, 14, 13, 12. I didn't see any chance that they will make the playoff. Certainly not as the fifth seed. But you talked about Trinchieri. He knew what he wanted from his team. He knew what he wanted to build over there. When I looked at the roster in the starting of the season, I thought, well, they don't have a player in the four position. They don't have. They have a lot of centers, a lot of players in the three, but who will play the four? So he knew what he wanted. He wanted a bigger team, a more athletic team, a strong team that that will be ready for the end of the games. And we saw Bayern as the comeback king of this season. They win a lot of close games. We talked about Baldwin. They have Lucic, one of the best
Excellent
small
player.
forwards in Europe. He will be, I think, the starting forward of the Serbian national team when we see them in Tokyo in the Olympic Games. Uh, but they are not impressive as a roster. But Trinchieri brought that team for the first time top in the top eight, not only for Bayern, also for a German team that will make its way into the Europe elite. And it's something about this season that we saw powerhouses like Panathinaikos and Maccabi and Olympiacos go back, and teams like Zenit and like Bayern that have drilled in to that position, that vacuum that that they left. But Bayern is a really, really surprising team. No one has thought in a million years they will go this far. And I think it's good for Trinchieri because he's they always talk about him as a loser. Let's say that in the important minutes he will crumble because we saw in Bamberg he had a fantastic team.
Right,
You
excellent.
see them in the NBA, almost the entire squad, entire roster, entire starting five now playing in the NBA, like Daniel Tice, that was there, Bradley Wanamaker. They had a very, very good team, but they didn't succeed in the EuroLeague. And Bayern, with a much less powerful roster, is going places. I If we look at them against Milano without home court advantage, it will be hard.
Very hard.
But we cannot rule them out because they've made us laughing stock this year. All us EuroLeague experts, as we say, we didn't give them a chance, and they just showed us who they really are. So after the first round, I picked Zenit as the biggest surprise of the season because they had COVID. So the entire team was on hold, and Bayern didn't have it. But in the end of the season, when you look at it, Bayern fifth place, just take our hats off for them.
You look at Milano. Ettore Messina, of course, was an assistant coach under Greg Popovich with the San Antonio Spurs for many years. He was with the Lakers. He's coached CSKA. He's won EuroLeague titles. One of the great coaches of our generation. He had a very poor first season. He had a team that he just couldn't put together with the right players in the right spots. But this year, he's been able to get a lot out of a player like Kevin Punter, for example. We knew is a scorer. We knew he's a good player. If you've watched him in European basketball, you've seen that. Zach Ledee, he's getting out what he wants from a player like that. If it's Michov, Sergio Rodriguez had a very good season this year. Delaney had a good year. Michael Roll in a very limited role has been excellent for them. Siobhan Shields has been a star, really a breakout star for them this year. Gigi Tatome looks like he came back, and we're seeing Gigi Tatome of 5-6 years ago. But really, the glue of the team is Kyle Hines. Without Kyle Hines, he probably isn't able to do any of this. Kyle Hines, an undersized center for people that don't know, has been playing in Europe for more than a decade, has won multiple EuroLeague titles, and is just such a great person. Has he been the key for Ettore Messina's team this year, the piece that was really missing in that first season to pull everybody together?
I don't think that we can point him out as the only solution or the only thing that was missing. But Messina knew that he needed someone with the I don't know how to say it, someone strong under the basket that can count on. Also, he did the same thing in his guard position when he brought Delaney. Inu Delaney is someone you go with him to the playoffs. There is no doubt about it. When you take Delaney, you will be in the playoffs. And we talked about the entire roster. They have a very, very impressive roster, but very, very old. A lot of vets,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a short-term project. They have to win this season, maybe next season. Afterwards, no more Kyle Hines, no more Sergio Rodriguez. Also, Gigi Datome is not getting younger. Of course, Panther, Shields, Delaney, but they are not the heart of this team. The soul is, as you said, Hines, Mitsov, Sergio, Datome, those players that have to bring the X factor. Because you know what Delaney is going to bring. He's going to bring
Oh, yeah.
15, 17 points, 6, 7 assists
Winner
each
shots.
night on the court. Shields will bring 15, 20 points. That's his job. Panther, 15, 20 points. But to win the EuroLeague, you don't need numbers. You need players that have been there and know how to win. And that's what Messina did this year. Because, as you said, last year was really poor. And we started to wonder maybe he doesn't have it anymore. Maybe, his years in the NBA, I forgot how to coach European teams, but he knew what he's doing, and he has a financial back from Giorgio Armani, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and it's brought a lot of quiet to the team, and it's not trivial also that Milano is in the playoffs because they haven't been able to do it in last few seasons, even though they had great rosters. So this season, also they have a home court advantage. Also they have players that have won the EuroLeague before, and you can count on them in these moments. So great success for Milano. Also good in the Italian league this season, and I hope for Messina that he can go to the Final Four and show what Milano is really made of. And of course, I talked about it. I put them as favorites against Bayern, but Milano has also those moments it's not as bad as good as a team as we saw because they have the tendency to disappear
Right.
in the crunch moments. But maybe Messina will change it. I hope for them this season.
A team that never seems to have quiet this year was CSKA Moscow. And of course, they're going to be playing Fenerbahce, a team that we don't know really who's going to be available. We know that Marko Guduric, when he came into the team, he really turned around Fenerbahce. He was the engine that kind of totally shifted their season from a very poor, dysfunctional season to something that they ended up playing very well, got into the playoffs. But of course, now with COVID, it's going to be an issue. CSKA, a team that has had all kinds of issues uh, on the court, off the court, has not been a fun year for Coach Itudis. He has still an all-star lineup, but of course he has a bunch of players that are injured. If it's Milutinov, and then of course the whole story about Mike James, who is now being shopped around to NBA teams. Either the Brooklyn Nets, the New York Knicks have been rumored as two possible landing spots for him. Can Itudis? They're going to get through this round most probably. Can they make it past? And like you said, it's that one game. You never know what's going to happen. Is it going to be a Darren Hillard that's going to step up? Is Hackett going to have one of those games where he just goes off? Is a Voigtman going to be the key? Is Clyburn going to come back? Where do you see CSKA? They seem to be such a mess in some aspects.
Yeah, you can see the real mess CSKA is in when you see their standing in the VTB, the league, the national league they're playing. It's a Eastern Europe league. Usually they dominated without any problems. They are fourth position. That's unbelievable for a team like CSKA. Even though the VTB is a good league, but we see CSKA year after year dominate with no problem. So you talked about it. They lost their center to an injury, Milutinov, the best center, maybe the best center in Europe. They lost their best guard because of disciplinary problems. Mike James that went back to the United States, and they brought Lundberg, the Danish star from the Polish team, Zielona Góra, is making a real impressive debut in the EuroLeague. I don't know if it can go on and show it also in the playoff in the Final Four because we haven't seen him yet in those kind of games.
Mhm.
But if I need to single out one player, so it's Clyburn. Also came back from an injury. He's not the player that we saw before his ACL, but is still one of the best forwards. And when we go to the Final Four, if they will go there, a lot will depend on him. He will get the ball a lot more. They still have, as you said, a fantastic roster. Toko Shengelia, one of the best of fours. He can play also the five if they need to. And Vogtman and Hackett from the bench will come. He will not be from the bench. He will be the starting guard right now that James is off. Um, Still has a very good roster. Not as impressive as we saw in the last few years. I think that if we look at who will end the games, who will take the ball when they will need it, they had they had James, they had Decolo, they had Higgins, they had Sergio Rodriguez. They always had good finishers. I don't know if Lundberg is up to it. I don't know if Aket is up to it. I don't know if Yanis Strelniks is up for it.
Mhm.
But but if they will pass Fenerbahce, and I guess they will because of the problems with the COVID with the Turkish team, they will go to the Final Four, not as favorite, maybe the first time in a lot of seasons, because they are really lacking in some aspects of the rotation. But they are Ceska, as we
And
talked about Real Madrid.
they're the defending champions.
Yeah, you can't count him out ever. Also, Itudis, he knows how to prepare his team for a certain matchup, a certain game in the season. Let's say if they will win and they will get Anadolu, they beat Anadolu this season by 35 points and lost in the second game by 33 points. So how can you look at this game and you say, okay, what game are gonna get? The one in Moscow, the one in Turkey? No one knows. But Ceska, like a lot of teams, has been hurt from the injury plague, from COVID. They don't have the finance like they had in the last few years to bring someone from the NBA and push him. They brought Michael Eric from Turk Telecom, the Nigerian center that will fill the void of Milutinov and Lundberg. They're good players, but not in the caliber that CSKA had in the past. So if we if we need to put them in perspective, right now maybe the fourth team in Europe. I think Milano is a better team than CSKA right now, and also they will have they have a mission on their hand. They will need to pass Anadolu if they want to, Anadolu or Real, it doesn't matter, to get to the final. And I think Tesca will look a lot different next year, maybe even without it to this. We don't know.
Mhm.
They always talk about it. What's his status in
Mhm.
Tesca? But it will be different in the next season.
Oded Halperin, before we let you go, we do have to talk about Maccabi Tel Aviv. We're going to make you the general manager. You're the general
Okay.
manager putting together Maccabi Tel Aviv for this coming, the 2021, 2022 season. What are you doing to get them back into a playoff spot? What do you need to do with the team?
Wow, that's a very, very tough question because I don't know how much money I have. I'm a GM without the finance, without the budget. Um, I talked about it also in last few years that I think Maccabi is lacking in the position of the number four player. They need to bring someone that not Bender. Okay, Bender is also, we talked about it in the season. He's a five. He's a five. He's not a four. He likes playing the five. He's a stretch five,
Right.
but he cannot play in the four position because he cannot guard anyone in
Mm.
this position. So I want them to bring someone in that position that we will be able to stretch the game and we'll be able to bring athleticism to the team, to bring something that they don't have. They're lacking in the last few years. Even last year they were a good team, but they still brought in Angelo Caloiaro as their starting four. It's not enough for this level. It's not enough. Uh, they need to bring an actual point guard that will help Scotty. We're hearing rumors about Thomas Walkup from Jalgiris, but right now he's few rumors. No one has any idea what's going to happen because one, it's still April. Two, we don't know what's going to go on in Europe. Which team has the money to bring those players because of the situation? That of course we know. So I wanna. They need a new point guard. Scotty will stay because he has a big contract, and I don't think they will want to pay him for not playing, even though he didn't have the best of season. Even if they bring a point guard, maybe they should leave Chris Jones in the team as the third point guard because we see that the good teams in Europe, the rotation is long. There are injuries. So things happen during the season, and you need the backup to the backup, even though. So these are the two positions I would start in. Another five, maybe we have to replace Otello. It's tough because great player, great person, but maybe is not. His injuries are letting him down. Or if you have the money, you keep Otello in as the third center.
Right.
You have Ante Žižić, you have Otello, and another starting center or a backup center before Otello Hunter. Also a five with athleticism that will bring the attributes of the defensive side that Giannis Peropoulos wants and needs, and he didn't have it this season. A lot of question marks about Yovel Zuzman, where he's gonna be next season because his contract is gonna end, and we hear that maybe he's gonna link with Katash in Panathinaikos. So, but also it's rumors, it's the agents, it's their time to blossom right now and bring their players out of their cocoon. A lot of changes we're gonna have to happen. But but as I stated in the start of my what I said in the beginning, I don't know how much money Maccabi Tel Aviv has. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if they know.
Right.
Because there wasn't the crowd wasn't in the stands the entire season. We know that Maccabi Tel Aviv gets a lot of revenue from their fans. So they will need to sit down, see what they have. If they're gonna go again for those steals, they take players from the domestic league, like we heard about Josh Nebo from Alat, a Texas A&M guy. So that's one player that we heard about. Or maybe they have to go to the EuroCup or to the BCL and bring players that have been good over there. I don't know. Just top of my head, you see Casey Shepard from Nizhny Novgorod. I don't think he's a EuroLeague player, but who knows? Nigel Williams-Goss having a great season in Russia. He's already played in the EuroLeague. Maybe he's gonna come. So the options are out there, but it all depends on the budget and how much money does Maccabi Tel Aviv have to spend, and what does it do with the contract it has right now, because they have a very big Žižić contract, a very big Wilbekin contract, and a very big Omri Caspi contract that also have to decide what they're going to do with it. If Omri Caspi is going to stay in this team, this is the amount of money they're going to pay for a player that plays half the season for the last 2 years and has a big injury history. I don't know. But luckily, I'm not the GM, only here. So I will let Nikola Vujicic do his job, as we say.
Oded Halperin, an honor and a pleasure to have you on board with the Sports Rabbi today. It was a great review of what we have coming up with the EuroLeague. This was a lot of fun. I think you really gave the fans out there an idea of what to watch for, what we're going to be seeing over the next couple of weeks. I'm certainly excited. I'm sure you're going to be broadcasting some of the games on Sport 5. If people want to reach out to you, where can they find you on Twitter?
Hashtag Halperin Oded. That's me on Twitter. That's the network I usually use. I also have an Instagram and Facebook. So you just write my name, and I think you will get there. Happy to reach out to you in the States, in Israel, wherever you want, in Europe. I'm here for you always.
Of course, Sports Rabbi, sportsrabbi.com, at the Sports Rabbi, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, English and Hebrew. We're here for you. Oded Halperin, an honor and a pleasure to have you on board today. Good luck, and we're looking forward to some fantastic basketball.
Thank you, Josh.